I was literally like this when you were talking.
Why the fuck were you moving your arms like that? Can you just not, like, stay still?
Stop being mad at me. No, I can't. Okay.
I'm not mad at you. You're just fucking stupid.
Let's pretend we like each other.
Why did you do that? Like, that's such a fucking desperate housewife. Okay. Hi, I'm Dea.
Hi, I'm Reese.
And we're literally dead.
This is episode 3.
Happy November.
Happy November. Halloween's over. Aww.
I'm very upset about that. I love Halloween. Well, Christmas is soon. I like Christmas.
Yeah. This is a fun episode. Because
Yes.
we're doing they/them.
I think this is like the first openly queer horror movie that's dealing with actual like queer problems that I've ever like heard of in the mainstream. Like obviously there's been some in the past, but like this is the one that's been advertised everywhere. It had like famous people in it like Kevin Bacon and stuff. So I was very excited to see it.
I was too. Especially because it's just such an incredibly funny concept.
Yeah. So, without spoiling anything, the film is about a gay conversion camp for teenagers where mysterious murders start happening and you have to work out who the killer is. It's very classic slasher vibes, very Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I think that those kind of vibes work pretty well for the film.
It does. I mean, you know, it's classic camp slasher, but it's conversion camp.
Yeah, and that's what gives a lot of the tension in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll get on to talking about the actual film now. So if you're scared of spoilers, run away.
And it's going to be an interesting one.
It
I mean,
is.
my first note I wrote down is gays can't drive.
That is also my first note. Yeah, here it is. Gay people can't drive. That's why I can't drive. Not because I'm blind.
Not because you're blind.
No, because I'm gay.
Ooh, double whammy.
Yes. So it begins with a cold open where a woman is driving, but her car stops, and then she gets murdered because she crashes it.
Yeah.
But then
It's a nice way to open up a horror film. She gets out of her car, it's all the classic stuff. She hears like a rustle in the bushes. It turns out to be like an elk or something.
Yeah. And then someone taps on her window.
And then just like breaks in and murders her.
To be fair, it didn't do the thing where she looks in the rearview mirror and like they're in the car with her. Mm-hmm. But it was still very predictable, but it was very like fun and tense and very enjoyable to see anyway.
But yeah, so then we cut to the camp.
Yes.
And we meet our campers. There are a lot of them.
That I don't know any of their names.
But very quickly,
yes.
We find out who the, core players are.
And Kevin Bacon is the obvious kind of villain in it. Like, it was very clear, like, because obviously we're normal people watching this movie. And we can see that this isn't right to own, like, a conversion camp. So you know who the villain is, like, straight away in terms of who the teens are going to be opposed to.
But yeah, when approaching the film, the only film I could think of to compare it to was But I'm a Cheerleader. You know, that same fun, campy conversion therapy plot. And honestly, it is very similar.
Yeah.
But it's less funny and more blood and guts.
Yeah. I mean, they/them is... A lot of it is, like, very tense, and it kind of reminds me of a lot of more horrors that are less about, like, slashers and more about, like, rising tensions within group dynamics, and then suddenly someone gets murdered. Because for most of the film, nobody gets touched, basically. Like, nothing happens.
Yeah.
In terms of murder.
I mean, obviously it opens with that one murder, but besides that...
there's, like, a good hour where there's no murder at all.
But it's quite interesting, too, because it explores, like, the darker side of conversion therapy.
Is there a light side?
Well, if you watch But I'm a Cheerleader, it's a lot lighter. It's a lot just like, stop being gay. Yeah. Whereas this was like, exploring, well, I shouldn't say the darker side, I should say the reality.
Yeah.
Is the better word to use. It explores the reality of conversion therapy and the pain.
Yes.
It's really sad, but...
Something that we found fun when we were watching it today was... predicting who was going to sleep with who. When all the characters were introduced, we were like, oh, this guy's going to try and sleep with this one, and these two lesbians are going to get together, which we found very interesting because a lot of our predictions were off.
Yeah. To be fair, they did have a few twists.
They did.
But then also I feel like some of them weren't justified. I had some issues with some of them. We'll get to that later in the plot, but I had some issues with them, so that's quite interesting. But yeah, so to continue with the plot. So we open up, we meet our campers. We meet our camp leader, Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon, camp leader.
Because I cannot remember his character's name.
Sorry?
Go on.
Because I swear after... Oh, one of my notes just says Balthasar is good a name.
Oh, we meet, was it like the groundskeeper?
Yeah, we meet all the counsellors as well. And we thought that the nurse was fucking Kevin Bacon's wife.
Because there was clearly something off there, but we were wrong about what.
It was, yeah.
One of the first hurdles that absolutely made me laugh was the fact that even at this gay conversion camp where all of the people there are homosexual, almost all.
Oh my god, yes.
They still gender or segregated the cabins.
Why would you put a bunch of gay men together in one cabin?
Or gay women.
Bunch of gay women in the other cabin. Like, what were we going to expect to happen?
Because, no, there's just no excuse. It's like, oh, we have to separate them. What if one of the guys sleeps with one of the girls?
It's like, that's not an issue.
Isn't that what they want? Isn't that like their dream scenario? It's absolutely hilarious to me.
Yes.
Oh, and then
I thought the introduction. So after they meet the counsellors, they do this trust circle thing, and I thought that was such a good way to introduce all the characters.
Yeah. Because
they were cut in between, and they're like, why are they all there? And they have all the different reasons, different quirks about the characters.
It also helps, like it's that moment. It defines who are the characters we're going to follow.
Yeah.
Because we only hear the stories of the characters that this is going to be about. Yeah. Even though there's like 12 campers, we only follow like 7-ish.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I still don't remember their names.
No.
And one twink calls Kevin Bacon bitch. He goes, bitch!
It's delicious. I love it. Yeah.
Bitch! Sorry.
It's absolutely fun, like opening up. It starts off really playful. I mean, it seems quite innocent. Yeah. Even Kevin Bacon's character introduces the conversion therapy camp saying that, oh, we don't want to change you. We're not trying to make you something you're not. You know, we're just going to make you be your truest self. And I mean, it sounds lovely, but obviously it's a lot of shit.
Very ominous.
But he's very much like, oh, you know, if anything, just enjoy the sun and have a good week, you know?
Yeah.
And it's very much like that. And it as a film starts very much like that, where it's just cutesy jokes. I mean, after that sort of therapy scene where we get to introduce all the characters and find out why they're there, we have a scene where they're all tucked in for the night.
Oh my god. And the jock is watching everyone put moisturizer on, and he rolls over in bed, and the guy next to him's doing the same thing. Because
moisturizer is gay. Moisturizer is gay. But that's also established that like the jock isn't
routine is gay.
Like other gays. He's a pick-me gay. Oh, the jock is such a pick-me gay, which
I'm not like other gays.
I don't use moisturizer.
My skin cracks.
Also, that scene is very funny because what I will refer to as I love some of these notes are absolutely hilarious to me.
Oh, gay people can't drive.
We'll call him one of the gay men who had the longer hair. We'll call him Desired Fruit.
Oh my god.
We'll get to him, but it's quite funny.
Metalhead. Not metalhead.
Emo. I mean, he gave the vibe.
He wears a black shirt and he has long hair. He's emo.
Emo. It's quite funny that he was included in that scene, very like awkwardly applying his moisturizer and smiling at the jock, considering what happens later when we find out. The moisturizer gag is done.
So
and
cute.
Then we wake up the next morning with one of the characters from the women's cabin getting up very early in the morning, going to the communal showers, and then being stalked.
We think she's going to get murdered.
Yep. And it turns out to be one of the counselors watching her because they were trying to expose the fact that she was a trans woman.
This part gave me like visceral rage when they moved her into the boys' cabin and they started using the male version of her name, and I want them all to die like really quick, but it doesn't happen because we're still building up tension. But I'm just like, why can't the murders happen now?
I will say, as a film, I was quite grateful that they did as much as they needed to sort of, you know, show us transphobia, to show us that pain, to, you know, do that arc, but they didn't keep playing it just to be abusive.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. We didn't, you know, have to hear her getting misgendered every second.
Yeah.
We didn't have to, you know, see her being mistreated every second, which I was grateful for, because
we get just as much like positive interactions with her as she does suffer as well.
It's not just trauma porn, you know.
Like, she laughs and dances and has a good time with
and
the
has a
other
great
queer
arc.
characters. She does.
And
She's great.
Jordan, the non-binary character.
I thought that maybe that Alexandra, the trans woman, should have been the main character, but then you can't call it they/them because I found Jordan really annoying. And it's not like anything they did. It was just like something about them that just didn't gel with me. Like, there are people I just don't like for no reason, you know?
Yeah. But that
they were a good actor though.
But Jordan, our main character Jordan, did have like a great bond with Alexandra.
Yes. They get closer and closer as the story goes on when Alexandra's moved into the boys' cabin next to Jordan.
Within that same arc, we see Alexandra. She has to go and get her estrogen pills off of the resident nurse.
Nurse Ally!
Nurse Ally!
Ally!
She asked for her medication, which is disguised as
Zoloft.
Yeah. Medication for depression. And then she, you know, admits to the nurse that it's her estrogen and that she needs it. And the nurse does give it to her. She says, don't tell anyone. But she gives it to her, and it was shocking, you know. And I think that's the first part of the film where you start to realize that the nurse is not like the other camp counselors or people on the premises. Nurse. She also had lesbian drawers.
She did in the background. It was all pink and it was in a gradient. I was like, those drawers are gay.
It was pink, like orange. It was, you know, it was the
those drawers were gay.
Gay drawers.
Gay drawers.
What do you put in a gay drawer?
Gay things. Like, what's it called? Like my collection of carabiners.
A collection of carabiners.
And novelty earrings. I'm trying to think of what else is gay to go in the gay drawers. Shame?
Shame. It's just carabiners, novelty earrings, and plaid shirts. No, shame's at the bottom.
Okay, shame's at the bottom.
Right at the bottom.
And plaid shirts is above that or below that, because one of them is worse.
Which one, though? But yeah, speaking of, by the way, some of the decisions that they made as camp counselors, some of the processes that they do were absolutely confusing. Like I said, like the gender segregated cabins were confusing because it seems like it wasn't going to prevent any, you know, of the behavior that they're against. But then I guess I was like, oh, maybe it's just a sex thing where they just didn't want people of one sex to change in front of people of another sex, which I guess is somewhat understandable.
Yeah, it was a little confusing because at one point, isn't Jordan's birth sex announced?
Yes.
And
Jordan is AFAB.
Yeah, AFAB. So I was wondering throughout the whole thing then, why didn't they give them the same treatment as Alexandra? Mm-hmm. But it is explained that because Jordan announced it publicly, they were allowed to remain in the boys' cabin.
Whereas Alexandra, who kept it a secret from the counselors, it was used as a way to punish her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it did kind of feel like the idea of it being a punishment was just an excuse.
Yeah. It kind of makes you think, like, how honest should any kind of queer person be about themselves, especially when they're in the face of danger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to be honest, a lot of the people were acting very like flamboyant and openly queer and stuff, but I don't think I could do that in a situation where I am put in a place with people who are designed to make me conform. I think personally, I think it would be easier to then hide those aspects of myself, and then once I'm out of conversion therapy, go and live my life as normal. But obviously that completely like changes if you're traumatized and all of that kind of thing.
I mean, not to get too political either. I mean, it's hard to with this film. I mean, it touches on a lot of serious issues. But I do think that the fact that both Alexandra and Jordan are both, two trans characters, and Alexandra, an AMAB trans woman, and Jordan, an AFAB masculine non-binary person, were both put into the boys' cabin. And I feel like it did sort of, speak to the fact that in a lot of this anti-trans stuff that's happening, it's mostly about securing a safe space, or sort of say a secluded space for cis women. I think it's harsh.
It is harsh, but I think a lot of the film is designed to make you uncomfortable with the reality that queer people still face, especially in places like the USA where conversion therapy is still legal in a lot of places. So it's harsh and it's horrible to like watch, but at the same time, what do you expect?
Yeah. We get to see some of their weird techniques and some of the weird things that they do conversion-wise. Like the segregated sex thing was very funny to me, but also the handcuff scene in which they are all woken up in the middle of the night, taking out in their coats, and each person is handcuffed to another, and they're separated into pairs. Yeah. Pairs of the same gender.
Yeah, that one's like you're asking for something to happen.
And then they're told to walk out into the woods and just stay there. Walk out into the woods for quite a few paces. Safe. Well, no, it doesn't. But also, was it ever explained what the purpose of that was?
No, I have a feeling that it was like a cut scene, because I think you would have taken more advantage of that. You're in a forest, like that's the whole point of like camp slashers. Like, you're surrounded by trees, dark figures can hide in there all the time. Like, you can. They should have taken more advantage of that whole thing, maybe killed off a few people.
Yeah.
But they decide not to. I believe that's the same scene where... No, it's not. It's similar time to where Balthazar gets murdered. But even then, that's not taking advantage of any of the, scenery. It's just in a cabin somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice that, again, talking about their weird methods, separating them and sending them off secluded in the woods with someone of their same gender. Again, how is this making them straight?
They're asking for it.
I'm so confused. But I guess the one redeeming factor was that we get to see our masked slasher in the distance, watching Jordan and Alexandra.
Yeah.
From the distance, and Jordan does shout, like, "Who are you?" And then
I think it's Alexandra that challenged him.
It was Jordan, wasn't it?
I thought it was Alexandra.
I'm pretty sure it's Jordan. We get to see them challenge the slasher, but the slasher doesn't harm any of them, even though they're all incredibly vulnerable. It doesn't. I guess that's sort of the first part in the film where we're like, oh wait,
the children aren't in danger.
The children aren't in danger.
At least not from the slasher.
And especially later on, it's kind of confirmed like, oh, the slasher's probably there more so for protection, especially because they were so vulnerable to the council's wrath.
Yes. So after this, I wrote down cute scene ruined by rap. And basically, when everyone gets to go back to their cabins the following day, they start singing Pretty Please by Pink. And it's very cute. But one of the characters gets up and starts doing the rap verse a bit. I just thought it was awful. But it turns into...
The bisexual one you like.
But she was not meant for rap. She was not meant for rap.
They start singing...
It turns into a music video almost, where the jock slides across the floor and then the twink is voguing with Alexandra strutting in the background.
But
and it's cute that they're all doing it together, and it's like they're all like solidarity amongst queer people, and that's very sweet. So it gets cute after the rap again, but I just thought that rap was awful.
I think in a lot of films, seeing just a musical break like that,
yeah,
I wouldn't like it. But 2 major points. One, I think the film has fun enough themes that it was just hilarious and just so not serious.
But also, gay people do that shit all the time. They just sing it all the time.
But then the second thing is, up to that point, we were seeing a lot of dark stuff.
Yeah.
And not even dark, just upsetting, real stuff.
Yeah.
We weren't seeing much killing, but we were seeing so much just like queer issues.
It was a lot of the film. As much as it is some points funny, a lot of it's very grounded, and that's what makes like breaks like that unexpected, but also very welcome. I think. Like I enjoyed
the musical break was a nice little warm bit.
It came out of fucking nowhere, but
especially because of the meaning of the song, because it's powerful.
Yeah,
it's powerful.
It's very cute. It was nice. I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was... Sorry, at this point I wrote... Because I will take notes while we're watching the film. But at this point I wrote, it was very cute that we get to know the characters a lot before any kind of killing happens. A lot of the...
Yeah.
There's, like, barely any scenes with the kids, actually confronting the slasher or anything like that. And so a lot of it is just looking at how they bond with each other, how they get through all the hard times, and, how they relate to each other. And that is really, like, I think more slashers should do that. I would prefer if there were breaks for the killing in it, but I like the idea of a prolonged period of getting to know different people before they get murdered.
It's not the first horror film to do this, but it's quite interesting that all of the good people, the queer characters are unharmed the entire time, and until, like, the final scene, don't really experience anything scary from the slasher. Whereas, the evil characters, the counselors, are the ones that suffer the wrath the entire time.
Yes.
And I think that's really nice to see. I know nothing ever justifies murder.
Well.
And it it is just the film. But I don't know, it's kind of nice to see, a horror film where the bad people are the ones getting killed and the good people don't end up accidentally getting in the way.
Yeah, I like that.
I will say though,
there were a couple that annoyed me that I think they should have died, but that's just me.
The next part of the plot, and this is after the handcuff scene in which they're taken to the woods and handcuffed.
Yes.
One purpose for that was because they were going through their bags.
Yes.
So while they were stuck in the woods, all the counselors were rummaging through their belongings back in their cabins.
That's when Jordan's birth sex was revealed to the most horrible woman ever.
Yeah.
Horrible
Kevin
woman.
Bacon's wife.
Kevin Bacon's wife. Not real. Probably not. I don't think they're married.
No.
I feel like out of context, I'm just insulting Kevin Bacon's wife.
No, Kevin Bacon was great. He did a great performance.
Yeah, he was good.
It was a really great performance. But Kevin Bacon's wife.
Most of the performances are really good.
I think, I liked them a lot.
Yeah.
Any performer I didn't quite like, I just think they weren't given the opportunity to shine.
Yeah.
I think Balthazar was
Balthazar! You're giving him a sick ass name like Balthazar.
I mean, he was just a creep perv that ends up being the first kill. But
you don't get to use him. Like, Balthazar's such like an iconic name. You should give him more shit to do.
Yeah.
I'd name my kid Balthazar.
You would.
I'm not having kids, so.
You so fucking would. But yeah, so Kevin Bacon's wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon's wife in the film plays the therapist on site.
Yeah.
And she's very manipulative, and she clearly gets into people's heads.
She got under my skin. I hate it.
So she finds Jordan's Bible, and she's going through their Bible, looking at some of the pictures and the drawings in it, and then finds a family photo, which shows Jordan as a young child surrounded by their almost entire Navy family.
I think it's military, Navy. I don't know. One of the two.
And she gets this little sick look on her face. And then it cuts to the next day in which Jordan goes for a therapy session.
Yeah, everyone's forced to go.
Yeah. And immediately we see her using what she learned against Jordan.
Yeah.
she tries to relate, and she essentially steals Jordan's entire story, and it's like, oh, I grew up in a family where they were all in the Navy, and
they
blah,
would
blah, blah.
never love me unless I fit in, so I tried to stand out, and I made stuff up. Basically trying to say that being non-binary is invalid, which is just stupid. I
thought it was a good scene, though, like, in a horrific way.
In a horrific way, yeah.
Because it really did touch on, like a very valid, real fear of, like, a lot of queer people, which is like, what if there is this one point or this one thing that makes me the way I am, or made me the way I am? What if I'm not just the way I am? What if it was a trauma? What if it was an event? What if it's just an act? What if it and it really played on that? And I think that's the scariest thing in the film.
I think a lot of the film is based around, like, the idea of if queer people did conform, would they be suddenly loved by all the straight people that condemned them in the first place? And obviously the answer is no. Their love is never conditional. Their love is always conditional if they won't accept you in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of film has to deal with, is if it is easier for them to be miserable and live in hiding and shame than it is to be out and to be yourself, because you have to fight to be yourself, especially in the religious families that these people are born into. And that's really what hit home when she was talking in that scene, the horrible therapy scene.
And to be fair, that actually comes before the musical break.
Does it?
Yes, because
I wrote the musical break thing before before the therapy scene stuff.
Because surely it cuts from that to the cabin in which Jordan's opening up to Alexandra, and very clear that the therapist has gotten in their head, and
oh yes, you're right.
Yeah, and
you're
they're
right.
like, oh, do you ever think that, like, we're the way we are because blah blah blah?
No.
And then Alexandra starts singing the song.
Yeah, she slayed.
So it was quite fun too, because it was like, oh no, like, Jordan's starting to be, like, torn from the inside out, and then Alexandra was like, hell no, come on, Pink. It just goes to prove that Pink sells conversion therapy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually know for a fact that Pink
inspired a lot of lesbian haircuts.
You think so?
She inspired mine in the beginning. I had a pixie cut, shaved on one side. Are you kidding me? Yeah. A lot of baby gays owe their existence to Pink.
We love Pink here.
I love Pink. She's great. My mom loves Pink.
She is great. She's a great performer.
She is.
Let's get back to this. So we got okay, so then we've got Jordan, after being pumped up by the musical session.
Oh, they go and they sneak into the counselor's cabin.
Yep.
And they find loads of stock images.
Oh my god. So Jordan gets into the Kevin Bacon's office.
Kevin Bacon counselor office.
Yeah, and, opens up one of the drawers and finds these photos of, like, abused children who have been to the camp before.
They look like stock images.
These are stock images. Like, these are fresh off of Google.
Like, they look like they've been printed off. Like, they're not even on photo paper.
They don't look like they were taken with the same camera. Some of them don't look like the same era, which is semi-intentional, maybe.
Some of them are, like, 60s clothes, 2020 camera.
Some of them look like someone just ripped a photo off of, like, someone's MySpace page and then just, like, imposed, like, some, like, bruising on their cheek.
Yeah.
Absolutely atrocious. That was
so ineffective.
That seems like a last-minute thing that, like, a runner had to go run and do.
Yeah.
And was just, like, Googling, like,
they lost their
royalty-free pictures of sad children.
Abused children.
Oh, it was so bad. Oh,
yes.
It was so bad that I almost tried I almost tried to justify with myself that it must be intentional. So I was like, maybe these are just stock images that were printed by Kevin Bacon to, like, maybe get into the head of Jordan's. I don't know, because it was so fucking bad. I tried so hard to justify it, but no, they were real images. Well, supposedly.
But it turns out they've been doing this for a long time. And that's what we learned from that scene. And then I wrote nurse ally homophobic, but I don't remember why I wrote this.
Oh. Okay, so our nurse ally, she bumps into Jordan in the office looking at the photos.
Oh, yes.
And she's alarmed by the photos as well. And Jordan's like, oh, why are they, you have to do something. Like, they shouldn't be doing this. They've been doing this forever. Look, And and she seems concerned, but not taking as much action as someone in the right mind should in that moment.
Yeah.
And at the time, it does lead us to assume that
she's actually on their side. She's been double-crossing him.
Yeah.
Double agent.
But the truth is that she is on her own mission.
She's on her own mission.
And
but we're not spoiling that bit yet. We already spoiled the forbidden fruit bit.
I feel like we might have already, but we'll see. We'll keep going. We'll see.
But it gives you questions, you know? What's happening here? What's going on?
Oh, my note about the nurse in that scene was do not trust the nurse. Fake ally.
Fake ally.
Which I was wrong about.
You were wrong about.
I was wrong about. See, I just thought she was gay. Oh, well, she is. Because all the counselors were gay, right?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, Kevin Bacon's wife might not have been.
No.
So we have our fake nurse ally scene. And then we have my favourite arc of the film, which is exploring gender norms, in which the boys and the girls are separated and then taken on a day of challenges to explore gender norms. And as the counsellor says, it's a way to find community and joy in tradition.
And I posed the question, is if you're a housewife in a gender norm, how are you supposed to find community when you're not allowed to do anything, basically? Like, all you're allowed to do is bake pies and serve men. How are you supposed to find a community doing that if you know, women can't have hobbies?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you supposed to do?
So, essentially,
they're baking pies.
Should we talk about what the girls are doing and then talk about the boys?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so starting with the girls. On the girls' side of this Exploring Gender Roles Day, the girls are taken into a kitchen together.
Yeah.
And they are having a pie making class.
Yeah.
Led by
one of the other counsellors who's married to the coach who's leading the boys' team.
Yeah. And she's saying all this bullcrap, and she is making pies.
She's making pies, and then she's like, so what do we do when the pies are done? Veronica asks. And she's like, oh, we serve them to the boys, of course. And all we could think about was, how much pie is that? And do they not get to eat any of it themselves? But women don't eat, apparently.
No, women don't eat, actually.
Okay.
I Googled
okay.
that. But yeah, no, so they're told that they're going to serve their pies to the boys, which, again, doesn't make sense because it's a pie for each boy. Yeah. Maybe more.
I
don't know the exact numbers, which is absolutely ridiculous.
That's a lot of fucking pie.
But the most interesting part about this whole pie scene is the fact that the counsellor running it
is gay,
but we knew that.
Yeah, but after everyone leaves, she says, trad wife girl, stay here. And then she starts feeling up her arm and making her lick pie off her fingers. And then I wrote here, groomer pie.
Groomer pie. It's like Pizzagate. Groomer pie.
Groomer pie.
Groomer pie.
It was very unsettling. It was very unsettling.
It is very and I couldn't tell if it was genuinely just her being, you know, a nonce, or if she was doing it intentionally to bait her or make Tradwife uncomfortable, because Tradwife gets incredibly uncomfortable and she runs out.
Yeah.
She's like, no.
Yeah. That's a normal reaction, I think.
To being, assaulted. It's very uncomfortable. She takes a cherry from the pie and she puts it in.
She forces it in her mouth as well.
Tradwife's
she's
mouth.
She's like, no thanks, I'm not hungry. And then she's like, in her mouth.
But only half of it though, because then she takes the other half and then puts it into her mouth.
That's so gross.
She starts talking about her and comparing her to the pie, saying that it's kind of like you, it's warm and perfectly formed.
Just like, someone described me as warm, I'd be like, what the fuck?
No, you'd be like, thank you. If someone said you're warm and perfectly formed,
I'd be like this pie.
I'd say thank you. I think that's really sweet, actually.
I think I'd have more questions about the pie if I could eat it.
Okay, so...
You'd get groomed. Can I keep that in?
Yeah.
You'd get groomed.
Yeah, but probably. But that's because I don't turn down free food. So anyway, we go over to the boys.
Yeah.
And they are taken on like a little outdoor shooting range. They're each given a rifle and they've got targets, you know, quite a few paces away.
Jordan eats this scene.
Jordan eats it up. So
all
they
the targets
shoot the hell out of the target, doing amazing. And then the coach come over and has to, have like a big toxic masculine moment where he's like, oh, well, you can't beat me. You can't beat me. And Jordan's like, okay, bet.
And then they do.
Yep. Absolutely slayed.
Slay. We're trying to get the last slay in. Slay. Okay. You win.
Slay. No, absolutely killer scene. But then it's followed up. Well, the whole point of that scene is that they're trying to make the boys do more masculine hobbies and trying to bring the man out in them, which I think it annoys Kevin Bacon's character in that Jordan, our AFAB non-binary character, happens to excel the most out of all of the
men eat shit as always.
Yeah. Slay. Num.
Where did the nums come from?
I don't know. I'm eating a shit.
Eating pie.
Yeah, I took the pie. I took the pie, and I took what came with it. Have you got pie? No, because you turned it down.
Because I didn't get molested.
And now you're jealous. I got pie and you don't. Stop. So the sort of climax of this lesson is when, oh my God, we didn't even talk about the dog. There is a dog on the camp the entire time. We should have mentioned at the beginning. I mean, it's not relevant. I forgot
he was there the whole time until he turned up.
Old hound that seems completely irrelevant.
That dog was dying.
Very clearly dying, very clearly old. They bring the dog to the shooting range and then they give the gun to
the twink,
the most effeminate twink,
the one who called Kevin Bacon bitch. That one.
Our musical gay. He was the musical theatre gay.
Musical theatre gay.
That was his thing. He was the musical theatre gay, and he's made to hold the rifle. And Kevin Bacon's character is telling him that he needs to put the dog down.
Yeah.
Because
shoot
it's
him,
sick.
be a man!
And obviously, our musical theatre gay is like, no, I don't want to shoot this dog, even if it is sick. It's like innocent or whatever. He doesn't say this, but he just kind of like,
yeah.
Which is like, what was that impression? But it's good. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
It's a great performance. I really liked his character. And
then Jordan snipes it.
Well, before that...
But nothing happens before that.
Yes. So the musical theatre guy is like, no, I don't want to do it. And then Kevin Bacon's character says that if he doesn't do it, then the coach who comes in with a sledgehammer is going to break the dog's legs one by one and make it suffer till it's dead.
It's a very traumatizing scene. Like, it's fucking
It is.
bad.
And so Kevin Bacon's character is screaming at the musical theatre guy, do it, shoot it. And then Jordan comes in and fucking snipes it. Like a badass.
Like a badass.
And then points the gun at Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. And then shoots it in the air like a redneck.
And then, like, dashes it.
Yeah.
Like a sissy.
Sissy boy.
Because that's non-binary. It's being a cool sniper redneck and a sissy at the same time.
Oh my God.
That's being non-binary.
Well, thank you for educating me.
Okay, so after the dog killing scene, we get the follow-up on
the girls.
The groomer pie situation.
On Veronica and Tradwife. And they get freaky.
They do. Tradwife goes to the
deck. She's having a fag.
By the lake.
Yeah.
And then it was weed, right?
I thought it was
Sure
I thought it was a cigarette because she was holding it like this, and you don't usually hold a weed like this.
I don't remember. Either way, they weren't
She's
supposed to have it.
Something.
And then Veronica sits with her, and she tells her about how she was almost groomed or assaulted, is a better term. And then they confide in each other, and we find out that Veronica is there writing a paper. She's disguising herself as someone wants to change, but she doesn't.
Yeah. Weird way of doing research. Sorry, but going to a conversion camp is probably not the way I would do research for a college paper. Interview people. Watch a documentary. Don't fucking put yourself in danger.
That's how you get the best thing now.
No.
You don't think she came home with a great story?
I got into uni without going to fucking hell.
Really?
Yeah, and so did you.
I'm talking about my uni experience.
Yeah, but you got in without going to fucking hell. So...
Fair.
Anyway, then they get freaky. And
it's explicit.
It is.
She's
like fully like slurping it up.
Slurping.
Slurping. She having a little munch.
A little munch. A little munch.
A little munch. She didn't get any pie, so she ate something else.
But I mean, that was a nice climax. I mean, wait, not like that, you bitch. Wait, that was a nice climax to their relationship because they actually had a lot of moments before that. They had their slow bonding leading up to that. It was a bit of a jump at the end, but it was nice. Whereas almost...
It makes sense.
It actually makes sense. Like, it actually...
Directly after this, the jock goes for a swim and fucks Forbidden Fruit.
Forbidden Fruit, Mr. Emo Man.
Mr. Emo
comes out to the lake and just strips and then gets into the water in his underwear.
No build-up.
No build-up. We've seen no...
interaction between them whatsoever.
Like, heavy interaction between the jock and
they
the
walk next
Forbidden
to each
Fruit.
other once.
Yet suddenly...
They fucking...
He's just in his underwear and he's like, okay, let's fuck then. And they fuck. And then he wakes up in the shack that they fucked in.
Yeah.
And Forbidden Fruit sat on the chair watching him very creepily, is saying creepy stuff about, the only identity I care about is that
predator
I'm a predator and prey.
Which one are you?
A predator, but what are you?
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out. And then that we find out that Mr. Emo...
He's a mole. He's a mole.
He's a mole.
He goes in and he sleeps with the most masked gay men in the camp to try and...
Well, I think that was just a coincidence.
No,
I think he just tries to tempt anyone, doesn't he?
Girl, look at the ginger guy, the coach. He was like, oh, this happened to me too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he goes in and tries to sleep with the most macho one. And if they resist, then obviously it's like, oh, you can join us. But if they don't resist, horrible shit happens.
Electroshock therapy.
Horrible shit happens. But we thought he was the least desirable one. Am I allowed to say that without sounding mean?
No, it was quite. I mean, I don't.
He wasn't the one I expected. He's not ugly. Don't worry. Like, he's not ugly.
He's not ugly, but the fact that he's described as desirable fruit, and that. What does Kevin Bacon say? He says that.
He said he called him the forbidden fruit.
The forbidden fruit, and he says that nobody can resist taking a bite or whatever. There's always someone each year that can't resist taking a bite, and it's like, really, really.
To be fair, that scene comes out of nowhere.
Oh, absolutely nowhere. Especially because they're trying to push a romance between
Veronica, the masked lesbian, and I want to call her Brittany, but I don't think that's her name. But she looks like a trad wife.
We'll call her the Christian lesbian.
The trad wife, and Veronica. Veronica's so edgy, but I love her so much. Like, she's like, I'm bisexual and I don't want to be here. And I'm like, girl, same. Love her.
But she got her trad wife. They had their moment.
And they get explicit.
They do get explicit.
Yeah.
But
their romance is built up so well, and then suddenly this like forbidden fruit guy comes in and sleeps with a jock, and we're like, where did this come from?
It does. But back to where we are in the plot.
Yes.
So,
back to where we are in the plot. Yeah. Wait, and then he gets captured and taken away by the counselors.
But before that,
I have something to say.
Say it. Speak your truth.
Okay, I wrote down a note, and it's very profound. It says, woman sex good, man sex bad. Oh, sorry.
Are you homophobic?
Woman sex good, man sex bad. Only towards men.
No, it was bad. It annoyed me because...
It was bad because it came out of nowhere.
I mean, obviously, once the twist happens of him being taken away and we find out that the forbidden fruit, the emo boy that he slept with, is actually working with the counselors and he's actually just decoy. Sure, it makes a little bit more sense then, but it's annoying because we get this more well-rounded sort of connection between these two gay women where they actually have cute moments together, get to know each other, they actually have this bond, and then it leads to this climax. Whereas with these two white, thin, muscular gay men, they just randomly take their clothes off and then fuck without knowing each other.
Which is weird because the twink who almost shot the dog, Mr. Sondheim,
the musical
theatre guy, in a few scenes, or is it in a scene that's close to this one, he goes, oh yeah, but Stu, the jock, is basically my fiance at this point, and at the end of the film they're very close, and we don't get to see that either, which is very confusing, which means it makes me think something was cut, because the film is like an hour and 40 minutes.
And it almost feels disrespectful too, because we do have the possibility of this like nice little gay relationship between the two gay men, the jock and the musical theatre gay. Like, it could have been good, and towards the end, they're holding hands while he's being, like, wheeled away in the ambulance, and they clearly got something there. No build-up. And also, it feels like a disrespect to their relationship that
He sleeps with someone else.
He sleeps randomly within the slow growth of whatever is between them. He just like randomly fucks some other guy who just took his clothes off in front of him. I mean, it just, I get it. Like, gay men are promiscuous. Yeah, we know. But like, do we just need to see that all the time? It's just a bit tiring. It just seemed ridiculous that all it took was that man just taking off his shirt and he was like, okay, we're going to fuck now.
Stu was desperate, for real.
It was disappointing. It felt like they just needed it to happen so they had an excuse to take him away and put him in the electroshock therapy chair.
Electroshock therapy. So, and they used more stock images for it.
So we find out, obviously, that forbidden fruit, Mr. Emo Boy, is actually a decoy working with the counselors.
Yes.
And he's there to tempt the boys into sleeping with him so that they can be punished. So they take Jock away into a private room with a big TV and they, put jumper cables on him and stuff.
And then they put stock images of naked ladies and naked men in front of him.
Not even fully naked, like in their underwear.
They're like fully in underwear. Not even sexy underwear, like in bikinis and shit.
Yeah. And then every time there's a picture of a man,
they shock him.
Shock him, and every time there's a picture of a woman, they give him release. Obviously, it's to create the association that like, looking at man is bad and looking at woman is good, which is actually something that's really been used.
Yeah,
it's really tough to watch. Yeah,
I think it would have been more visceral had they used not stock images, but apart from that, like his performance is quite good. Being shocked. And everyone was talking about how the coach is like, oh, it worked for me, don't worry about it. It's very, like, disturbing in that sense.
Yeah, especially because, as we find out in a moment, it didn't really work for him, did it?
No.
Because what happens next is that the nurse, Miss Fake Real Nurse Ally...
the Stu gets taken to the nurse.
Yes.
And I had a question here, is why is it every time in a horror movie, they always say, I can't stand for this, I'm going to the police. Why would you announce that to a group of people that you're against? Would you not sneak away? Like, have some, you're a nurse with a medical degree, and you're so dumb that you're like, I'm going to announce going to the fucking police in front of these people.
I think maybe it's because she wasn't actually going to go to the police.
No, it was
because she'd already killed someone by then.
It makes sense in twist, but that doesn't stop it from happening in every other horror movie.
Spoiled it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I spoiled it, even though I said you couldn't.
The nurse had already killed Balthazar, our groundskeeper at that point. So I do not think she was going to call the police.
Yeah.
Because obviously she would get caught before she could finish her mission.
Yeah.
Anyway, she semi-rescues our Jock from the electroshock therapy. And then we get my favorite kill in the film.
Is this the scene?
This is the scene. The phone sex scene. Now, when you hear phone sex, you may be thinking something very different.
You're not thinking of what we're thinking.
You're not thinking of the right thing. You're not.
So we see the coach and then the groomer pie in the bed.
Who are married.
They're married. You don't really see them interact that much, but they're in bed together and they're looking at each other's phones, and he's showing her pictures of naked ladies and she's showing him pictures of naked men so they can get in the mood. And they start
in their underwear.
Yeah, and they start having their marital relations.
In their underwear. Not fully clothed, but like in their underwear. I feel like it's very important that they're not naked.
They're not naked, no.
They're just grinding up against each other.
They're grinding. And then he's on top of her and the phone is on the pillow next to her and he's looking over while he's grinding.
At the picture of this shirtless guy.
Of this shirtless man. And then they both get stabbed.
And then, the woman under him opens her eyes.
Yeah.
Groomer Pie. She opens her eyes. And she sees our masked slasher behind the coach. And they get chopped up.
Yeah. And then this is where I wrote, straight sex equals death.
Yeah.
Which is a slasher rule. So
such a really good announcement to make, good.
I'm not straight phobic.
Public service announcement.
I'm not straight phobic, but straight sex equals death.
It does. Be careful out there. Use protection. Because
don't fuck in the woods.
Straight sex leads to death, or worse, children.
Oh. Don't say that. Don't say that. Anyway, they get stabbed because they're pretending to be straight.
Yeah, that's what they get. Yeah. Just be gay, and you would have lived.
And then we get the forbidden fruit, and he gets captured by the masked people and put into the same room as the conversion therapy, and they get conversion therapy to death. That happens next. That's literally the next thing that happens.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. I didn't have anything to say. I was like, oh, I got a thought. No, I don't.
No thoughts, head empty.
No thoughts, head empty. Straight sex bad.
Straight sex bad. Yeah, they just electrocute him with the pictures just going in the background, and that's actually my favourite kill of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's no blood. There's no blood in it, and I think that's really fun and inventive. It's like
a little bit on the chest.
A little bit, but like...
But fried from the inside.
Mostly fried, yeah. And you don't get a lot of fried deaths in horror movies. It's mostly stabbings, shootings, maybe...
It's true.
Occasional drowning.
I think when you're killing that many characters too, I mean, it's only a handful, but multiple characters within a film in an enclosed space, it's nice to have a bit of variety, you know?
To be fair, there's a lot of characters in this film, but not a lot of them get killed. And usually with a slasher film, everyone gets killed, apart from one person.
Which is true. And I guess I will say another thing is a lot of the fear that I felt watching it, I mean, like, you know, felt how much fear do you really feel? But came from a lot of the queer topics. It was a lot of the uncomfortability about the reality of these like really dark, painful and abusive conversion therapy methods, and the fact and truth about that and the queer struggles was a lot of the fear for me. It wasn't so much the slasher, at least not for the majority of the film, because the slasher only ever goes after the counselors. If anything, it just feels relieving to see them die.
Yeah.
And there aren't too many jump scares where I was like, ooh.
No, there's not that many jump scares.
So it's quite interesting in that, and that we don't fear the big bad too much in this film. Maybe a bit in the beginning, especially in that first like opening scene of the woman in the car being killed. But besides that, we don't fear it too much, which makes the film quite interesting.
Yes. So I would actually say that personally I didn't find this film very scary. Like, I found it uncomfortable at points, but this isn't the type of film... Well, I don't never get scared at slashers.
Yeah.
And slashers aren't my genre, really. Like, I like them, they're fine, but, like, I'm never scared at a slasher. And this was not an exception. I think there's less to do with, like, the topics and everything, because those were uncomfortable, and they did make me wince and stuff. But I think it's just the filmmaking that like made me less inclined to be scared.
I agree, but I think I mean, as I said, like how much fear can you feel?
Yeah.
Because I don't typically feel too much fear from slashers either, but there's at least that tension and the released jump scares. You know, any time that it involves the big bad, there's this level of like, ooh, you know, this like the tension, and I didn't have that throughout the film. And sure, that could be to some extent the filmmaking, but more so I think it's because again we had no reason to fear the slasher. We weren't given one for most of the film, and so whenever there was a scene where the slasher turned up or we felt like the slasher might be somewhere nearby, I wasn't worried. I wasn't scared. There wasn't any tension.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't afraid that the slasher was going to do anything bad to our main characters.
And I think that's probably where the film is weakest.
I guess so. I agree. I think that because we do have that scene where right at the beginning, really early on in the film, where Alexandra is in the shower.
Yeah, that one's very tense.
The camera stalking towards the communal showers, and we do think that the killer's there.
Yes.
And at that point, we don't know who the killer's there to kill, so we still feel that tension. And I think they could have, rode that a little bit longer into the film. The idea of like we don't know who the killer's after, so that we would be scared of them, because we very quickly, I mean, there's like no deaths, so we're not scared. And then when there start being deaths, it's very quickly clear that like, oh, they're not coming for the kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
After these two scenes, the children and the nurse and Kevin Bacon and his wife all come to the middle because they've realised that some things are happening. Bodies have been discovered.
The slasher has moved all of the
bodies into the mess hall, is it?
Yeah.
The nurse decides to take the lead, and Kevin Bacon and his wife look for guns. Alexandra takes most of the children and decides to walk back to town because she says she's not waiting for the psychopath to get a bus. She's such a queen for that. I love her. And she takes the lead, and Jordan goes after the killer, and then Kevin Bacon's wife dies.
She dies on her way to get the guns.
She dies on her way to get the guns.
And then the killer puts her body into the cupboard.
Yes.
Jordan goes to follow.
Yeah.
Doesn't find the wife. And then here's Kevin coming.
And then he goes into... They go
Kevin
into...
coming. Sorry, that's very funny. Anyway, go on.
Sorry. They hear Kevin coming. And then they hide in the cupboard and they find the body. And they're, like, covering their mouth because... Obviously, like, they don't want Kevin to spot them and shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they see the killer, the slasher, come for Kevin. And the slasher takes her mask off, and it's Nurse Ally, who actually turned out to be Nurse Gay.
Nurse Gay. And she reveals that she was once one of the many children at the camp who was abused by Kevin Bacon. I feel like I've called him Kevin Hart at one point in this video. You have to see it while editing. But reveals that she was once one of the children who were abused by Kevin Bacon.
Yes.
At this conversion therapy camp.
And her goal is to eradicate conversion therapy by killing all of the counsellors.
Starting with the one that abused her.
I think that's a valid motive.
So she reveals all of this, and then she goes to kill Kevin Bacon, and he stops her.
Yeah.
And so Jordan jumps out the
and grabs the gun that fell out of her hand.
And points it at Kevin Bacon.
Oh, and this bit pisses me off. Okay. I have direct quote from the film. And so they're all in a standoff. And Jordan's holding the gun. And Molly, the nurse, is like, shoot him. And Kevin's like, shoot her. Don't kill me. This isn't you. That kind of shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan says, I'm strong enough to not do this. And this pissed me off because Kevin has done nothing but abuse and mistreat children for years and years and years and create a kind of cult of ex attendees at this camp. And they're not going to, like, kill him?
Yeah, I agreed. It
was such a mushy ending.
It took the, the high road ending.
High road in quotation marks. I don't think it's the high road. But then, even though Jordan decides not to shoot Kevin Bacon, my second favourite death of this whole movie is Molly shoves Kevin Bacon into a taxidermy rhino head and impales his ass.
Yeah, I love it because it's such a well done scene where Jordan is like, oh no, I'm strong enough not to do this, and then they put the gun down, and then turn around, and then immediately Molly screams, ah! And then just runs at Kevin Bacon. It's very funny.
It was very good. And then she has a really sick quote because on the sign that comes into the camp, it says like renew, rejuvenate, rejoice or some shit. And she says, when she slices Kevin's throat open while he's impaled on a taxidermy rhino, says, rejoice, renew, revenge. Fucking slayed. Slayed. That was such a classic, like, slasher type, like, thing to say.
Yeah.
So good.
And then there's some admin between Molly and Jordan about, like, oh, we should travel together and kill and... destroy all of these conversion therapy camps. Well, because Jordan's just like, why is this my problem? Why is this my fight?
Why is this my problem?
No, but I agreed with that extent. I was like, mm-mm.
But you should have at least shot Kevin.
But I think,
or given Molly the gun.
But then there was this it was definitely way overdone in the end. This whole like, high road thing. I mean,
oh my God.
Like Jordan talks to Molly and is like, I'm no longer gonna let anyone tell me who I am. Not Kevin Bacon. And not you, Molly. And it's like, it's obviously doing that thing of like, there is these two paths being presenting to you, either like change and like horrible like queerphobic path, or it's like, be angry and revenge and like get back at them. And it's like, no, I'm just gonna be myself and like, I don't need to be scooped to their level.
And that's not like a profound response to have, but it's treated like it is one, and that's why I think that this film is kind of a letdown for me.
At the end, yeah.
And then the movie ends, kind of. So, yeah, that's it.
It like wraps up. This is the same. The ambulances come in, taking away those that are just injured. Come
and take a thingy away.
Some people getting questioned.
And Trad wife and Veronica are like talking about how they're gonna tell her parents, and Stu and Twinkie guy go in the ambulance together because he's like
Jock and musical theatre.
Yeah. And they're like, can I come with him? And they're like, is he family? And he goes, yes.
He's family, but all it took was any other man taking off their shirt and he was fucking them.
Disgraceful behaviour. And then I think Alexandra and Jordan crack a few jokes, talk about how good they are and cool they are, and then the movie ends.
Yeah.
I have a little overall thoughts bit. Do you?
Give me yours.
Okay. Mostly pretty good, but the ending fucking pissed me off. I didn't like the ending. I think the structure of the film would make me struggle if I wasn't watching it with you, because it's a kill, then there's no kill, and then there's loads of kills at the end. But the thing is that I was expecting like a normal slasher structure with like no kills in the beginning and then loads of kills throughout the rest of it. And so that threw me off a little bit, but that's not like an issue with it. I would have personally paced it differently, but you know, I'm not the one making the movie. Doesn't know what it's trying to say. That's what I think. I think it's trying to be apolitical but also political at the same time. And the thing is that with conversion therapy, you have to have a solid stance on it. You can't be like, oh, well, you shouldn't abuse people, but you know, it's okay. They shouldn't. The counselors shouldn't be punished. Like, that's not, like, it's such a pussy kind of stance.
Yeah.
And I think the filmmakers need to pick a side. For lack of better words, pick a side.
The ending could have been so much better with that message if Jordan had just been like, I don't want to do this, or I'm strong enough not to do this, or whatever, and just put the gun down and then walked away and was like, oh, Molly, have it, you know?
Yeah.
Because instead it was kind of like, oh, I'm against both of you, which is like, oh, I'm against the bad, terrible abuser, and I'm also against the victim who's been abused and has spent their entire lifetime mentally tormented because of the abuser.
And it's not like she's hurting good people. She's only coming after people who abuse children.
Literally.
Like, what are you doing? There are points where there's build-ups but no payoff, and payoffs with no build-up. And I'll say, so build-up with no payoff, I would argue, would be Alexandra's story, most of it, because she just walks off at the end. And I like that she did it because she was no nonsense. But at the same time, that's it, basically, for the whole film. And an example of a payoff with no build-up would be a musical guy and jock guy's relationship, because it has a payoff but there's no build up to it. He just mentions him casually once and that's it. That didn't make any sense to me, and that's the part that kind of pissed me off a little bit. And then the last note I had was, most of the time I was just waiting for kills, and there was a little too much build up for my liking. But overall I think it was okay. It didn't live up to my personal hype because the trailer looked really good for me.
It did. It looked a lot more fun too.
Yeah.
I think it was fun because it was queer and there were like fun queer characters.
And they were making queer references.
Yeah, one of the things with that is it almost felt like, even though it was directed by a gay man, it almost felt like it wasn't, in the sense that it could have definitely had a lot more queer humor, queer joy, and a queer attitude towards the subject in film.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was there. There were queer characters. The characters were great and so queer, but the plot, the story, and the attitude didn't feel like what I recognize as sort of that like familial like queer storytelling.
I think so. I think
which is hard to define.
It felt like the director or maybe writer was kind of trying to placate any straight backers by doing that ending.
Yeah.
I obviously we don't know the context behind the filmmaking because I tried to look it up online. I couldn't really find, but it just didn't feel like it lacked a bit of oomph.
Yeah.
A bit of oomph.
I think it was enjoyable because it was, I mean, like you said right in the beginning of this episode, like it's one of the very few horror films like it where it's like tackles such blatant, I mean, so much of horror is queer and so much of it is subtly exploring queer issues, but it's usually like quite underlining or it's sort of like an abstract way of addressing it. Whereas this was just like, oh no, like here's a horror film where a trans woman's being misgendered and having her hormones taken away from her as punishment, and a non-binary character that is being groomed into picking a side, etc., and obviously conversion therapy. So it was enjoyable for the sense that it's like the only thing of its kind-ish, one of very few. So it was enjoyable that it was like, oh, I love this like queerness and the queer fun characters, but it definitely could have been way better, and it could have been done better.
And I think that's why I'm personally a little bit, like, I feel a bit sad about it, even though, like, overall it's a fine film. It's like I would say I would rate it like a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, maybe with a heart. But, like, because I did like it, but I think that's why, even though it's not the worst film ever, I am so saddened by how its quality ended up. Because it is, like, a very overtly gay film, queer film, and it is, like, it should be, I don't know, I want it to be better than it was. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
But it was a step
okay.
in the right direction.
Yeah. So, would you recommend the film?
I would, especially to someone who isn't a huge fan of horror because they get very scared.
I'd watch this with my mum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a nice light one. I mean, obviously, it's still got like some like slashing and some blood.
Yeah.
But it's quite a light horror, I think. I mean, even like the kills aren't very like graphic or gruesome on screen. We don't see guts.
I would watch this with people who aren't gay, and I would watch this with people who are gay or trans.
But yeah, I would recommend it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to ask her 2 fun questions at the end.
2 fun questions at the end.
Yeah, 2 fun questions at the end. I mean, I would ask like how attractive the big bad was.
She's not my type.
No, I mean, even with the mask on, it wasn't an attractive mask.
No, it's such a bad mask. It's such a shit mask. Make
I mean,
it rainbow.
it was honestly, it was quite confusing because
it looked like there was multiple people doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what we thought it was going to be. They, as in a group of people, slashed them, which would have been, in this instance, Jordan. Or possibly even Jordan slashing a group of people, right?
It's like
they slashing them. But that's what you said before, remember? But that wasn't the case.
It could have been theys.
Yeah.
Because it was multiple theys and multiple non-binary people slashing multiple thems.
I would love to see a movie about a non-binary group of people just run around killing people, like a non-binary cult.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me? That would slay.
No, but I did initially think that Jordan was going to be the big bad because it would be like a play on, because it'd be like they, as in non-binary they, slash them, a bunch of people. Like,
it's such a good title, but they don't really use it all that much.
They don't. I feel like
they could have, but they didn't.
The title was the title because it sounds so good.
Yeah.
And less about like meaning anything too much.
Yeah, which is a shame. The mask was mediocre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the mask wasn't even attractive.
No. What was your second question?
And my second question is, obviously, what could you change that would make this entire film not happen? How could you avoid this whole mess?
How could I avoid this whole mess?
Ban conversion therapy.
Ban conversion therapy. My family is very accepting. And so they wouldn't send me to conversion therapy, but they probably would send me somewhere else because I'm very annoying.
So a couple months this, you could just love your children.
You could love your children.
Ban conversion therapy.
Ban conversion therapy. Don't go into the fucking woods.
That's a good one.
Don't abuse kids.
Don't have straight sex.
Don't have straight sex because you'll get slashed in the middle.
Every time.
Yeah, and it's not even just this film that says it. Jason Voorhees did it. There you go.
Don't trust Kevin Bacon.
Don't trust Kevin Bacon. Oh, but he's so good in Tremors. Have you seen Tremors?
Yeah.
I love Tremors.
But yeah, I liked this. I liked they slash them. I would recommend it. I would watch it with other people, especially if you like a light horror.
Yeah.
And if I was to rate it on like Letterboxd, I would probably do a 3.5.
You liked it more than I did.
Maybe a 3 actually. I don't know. I think I say 3.5 just because I'm like, oh, I'm in a good mood.
I have a question for you, actually, that I didn't tell you about. It's a surprise question.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I do.
So we have...
Sorry. Go on. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Ew.
Come on.
Ew.
What's the answer? What's the question?
The question is, so we've seen now 3 horror movies on this podcast.
Yeah.
How would you rank the villains? So we've had Marcella...
On the basis of what?
On the basis of enjoyment, of how much you enjoyed them.
Okay.
So we've had Marcella, the boogeyman, and then Nurse Nurse kills a lot.
Nurse kills a lot.
Nurse kills a lot.
Ooh, I'm gonna put Nurse kills a lot last.
Okay.
She wasn't the cuntiest slasher.
She wasn't. And as a gay person, you have a duty to be cunty, especially when you're killing people.
Yeah. And also, it's a male-dominated field. Like, she really had to step up to show...
She needed to step up, but she didn't. Like, that mask? Absolutely not. Put a pride flag on that thing.
That would have been sickening. Because it would have been the last thing they saw before they died.
That would have been so funny.
She's last. I think I'm going to put the boogeyman second and Marcella first. Marcella was just the most interesting as a person because she had depth. She had good and bad. She had complexity. She had conflict.
Yes.
She had love. She murdered.
She slayed.
She slayed.
Literally.
Literally dead. No.
We'll have to find.
And Boogeyman's in the middle because Boogeyman was scarier than the slasher. Gave you a bit more spook. Had a bit more of an interesting design.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the most insane villain.
No. We're gonna have to see if we can ever find a villain that can top Marcella on our little ranking.
That can.
Huh?
That can what?
That can. Oh, for fuck's sake! She could never be topped like that. Okay.
You never know. She might be a switch.
She's not switch.
But yeah, that was a fun episode.
Yes.
It was a good film.
Yes.
Good enough. I can't wait till we get like a really bad film where we're just like, well, I don't even want to record the episode.
Oh my god. That'd be so funny.
We'll see.
Then we might have to just switch films.
We'll watch The Village.
Oh, I hate The Village.
We'll talk about it another time.
I hate The Village.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this episode.
We've been literally dead.
We have. We are.
Yeah, we're literally dead. We're so tired.
We're literally dead.
We're going to go home right after this.
We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we hope you come back next time to die again.
And if you don't, that's fine.
Fuck you.
Totally fine.
I don't think it's fine.
I mean...
Bye!